Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. As you can see, I'm flying solo this time around. My mom is out of town for the next couple of weeks, so you got me. I'm Taylor and I'm TNT. Today we're going to be talking about anxiety, and I'm going to give you some tips on what has helped me. 'Cause I've struggled with anxiety for a long time. I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit about my experience with it, and then give you some tips at the end. But before we dive into that, I'm going to tell you what tea I'm drinking. It is a green tea jasmine, and actually the brand name is Taylor. So there you go. Thought it was a perfect fit. And this is actually one of my favorite mugs too. I don't know why. I love the glass. I think it looks so classy, and it's so cool that you can see the tea. So anyway, if you haven't tried it, give it a try and let me know what you think in the comments below. Alright, so as I said, I have dealt with anxiety and stress for most of my life, if I'm being honest, but it started getting really bad for me when I was about 19, 20 years old, and that was the time that I moved away to college. I was in California at the time, and so that was my first time being out of the house, away from my family, and just surrounded by new people, new faces, living in a dorm, and having all these classes and everything. And even though that was an absolutely wonderful time in my life and I loved it, it was also just a completely new season and a completely new chapter that I'd never experienced before, and I didn't realize it at the time, but that big change in my life, I think, triggered some anxiety. It took me a long time to identify what it is, and more on that in a couple minutes. For the first few years, I really didn't understand what was going on with me. I just felt like I was sick all the time. My stomach would be upset all the time, and I was losing weight. I dropped 30 pounds. I was even throwing up in the mornings, and some people thought that I was pregnant, and turned out that was not the case. And I thought maybe there was something wrong with my thyroid, and so I went and even saw a doctor about it, and my thyroid was perfectly fine and perfectly normal. And I went through all sorts of different tests and to try and figure out what was going on with me. I had a wonderful doctor at the time. She was great, and I remember just how loving and understanding she was. And she, in just a very wise way, talked to me about anxiety and stress, and she actually prescribed a sermon for me to go listen to, and it was just about stress and anxiety and kind of how to deal with those types of things in your life. So I did. I actually looked up that sermon and I listened to it, and I thought it was really good. I think that was actually one of the stepping stones that started helping me realize what was going on. And I have a wonderful support system. I'm so thankful for my family. I remember my mom and even my husband at the time were, trying to talk to me about anxiety and, panic attacks and things like that. And I just was in total denial for a while, for a year. I was like, no, that is not what's going on with me. There must be something else going on. I'm not stressed. I don't feel like I'm stressed out all the time. But one of the things that really started helping me recognize and realize what was going on was we looked up triggers of things in your life that can trigger anxiety and stress and panic attacks. And those were very big life changes. So big life changes like moving, getting a new job, getting married, having kids, or just things like that that are really big changes in your life. And I hit a lot of those points because we had just moved, I got a new job, I had just gotten married, and so it was I was hitting all those points, and I started realizing, kind of putting those pieces together in my mind, and I was like, oh my goodness, I think maybe that is what's going on. And I just didn't recognize that I was having panic attacks on a regular basis. But as soon as I started realizing that, I feel like it was such a turning point for me, and I began to be able to identify what was going on and then being able to deal with it. I feel like it's gotten a lot better. It's never been that bad since that season in my life. That was probably the worst that it's ever been, but it definitely is. It's just been kind of up and down throughout my life. And again, having kids, being a mom, even though that is absolutely wonderful things, and I mean it with all of my heart when I say that I'm living the dream. I've always wanted to be a mom, and I absolutely love it. but it is a really stressful job. Like, it's a really stressful task. Like, being a parent is both wonderful and also stressful. And so, again, it's kind of just been up and down for me. Some things that I have learned about myself, things that I would love to share with you guys that have helped me a lot along the way, is number one, like I said before, identifying it is the first step, because anxiety can affect you in so many different kinds of ways that sometimes it's hard to identify it. And so I think that's the first step, and that's really important, whether that's journaling for a little while and just kind of seeing where your head is at, or talking to somebody that you love and trust and kind of getting their perspective on what's going on, whatever that might be for you, to kind of help you recognize, like, oh, I'm having panic attacks and that's what this is, right? And then after that, the second thing is learning what best helps you to calm down, or like if you're having a panic attack, like for me, when I felt really anxious or just felt like I was having a panic attack, I would just kind of excuse myself for a couple of minutes from whatever that situation was. I would go and just take a few deep breaths. I would try to just calm myself down, and I would tell myself, like, it's okay, like, we're gonna get through this. It's not that big of a deal. I've also been to counseling for it as well. Counseling is huge. Sometimes, like, the idea of going to a counselor is kind of scary or nerve-wracking, or talking to a total stranger about all these things going on in your life can be really difficult. But let me tell you, it keeps your anxiety in check. Like, when you're talking to somebody about it and kind of verbalizing all of those things, I think is so huge. And that was one of the absolute biggest things for me to help keep my anxiety and stress under control, is going to someone about it and just getting to talk to them once a week, or even just a couple times a month about that, and just keeping myself centered, because getting that outsider's perspective is so important, because it can help center you and help you to realize, actually this situation isn't as bad as I think it is. And something that the lady who was counseling me told me was, in those moments that you're panicking or you feel really stressed out, just sit down for a moment and just think to yourself, what is the absolute worst case scenario in this situation? And write that down, or think to yourself, like, why am I panicking so much? Like, what am I worried about? And if you write that down, a lot of times, like more often than not, the worst case scenario is either one of two things. It's ridiculous and it's not going to happen that way, like the way that your mind is making it feel, like, oh my goodness, this situation is just going to turn into a horrible thing or whatever, right? And it just is so out there and it's unrealistic. Or the second option is you realize, even if the worst case scenario happens, it's actually not that bad, and you can deal with it and you can work through that with that person or whoever it is that, whatever that situation is. And then the other thing is too, that I think is huge when you're dealing with anxiety, is reminding yourself, don't worry about what hasn't happened yet. That's basically what anxiety really is. That's what stress is that you're worried about the future. You're worried about things that haven't even happened yet. And I know, like, I'm so guilty of that. Something happens at work, or like I have a client that's, unhappy with their haircut or their color or something like that. And I know that I'm going to have to fix it. And then I'm just thinking to myself the whole time, oh my goodness, when I go in there, they're going to yell at me. They're going to be so mad at me. They're going to, it's going to just be a horrible experience. And then when I go in there, everything is perfectly fine. And they don't yell at me. They don't get mad at me. And I'm able to fix their hair, and it's totally fine. And so again, just reiterating that, don't worry about things that haven't happened yet. The other thing is that helps me a lot is, as I mentioned before in a previous video, I'm a Christian. Reading my Bible and praying, and even doing like these Bible meditations, just to like kind of calm myself down, are amazing. And just listening to the Bible being read out loud. There's all sorts of different apps that you can get that will like read Bible studies to you or read the Bible to you and things like that. And I just think that is so important, because again, that just like centers you back into reality, and just remembering ultimately God is in control and He is sovereign and He has got these things under control. And that is the number one biggest thing that has helped me with my stress and anxiety and my worrying, is just reminding myself and knowing that God is in control, He is sovereign, and I don't need to worry about it because it's all in His hands. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video helpful, and if you have any comments or questions, please comment below, tag me in a video. I would love to hear about what you guys are going through, or if you guys have ever struggled with stress and anxiety, and some really good ways to help you guys calm down. Anyway, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. I actually posted a reel on Instagram about stress and anxiety. It was one of those put a finger down weird anxiety symptoms. I was amazed. That was the first time that I had heard some of those symptoms. So go check that out. I thought that was kind of crazy, and that was one thing that actually gave me the idea to do this video today, is because I think people do need to be more aware of stress and anxiety and how it can affect you. And if you have those symptoms and everything, it can be so subtle and you don't even realize that was a symptom. Like, I didn't even know that was symptoms of anxiety, and I realized I had 8 out of 10 of the symptoms or something, and I was like, oh wow. It was eye-opening for me. So anyway, go check that out. Follow us on Instagram. Yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers.